Hello viewers, thank you for joining me. November is usually around the time I start looking for something a little more lighthearted. Not that this year has been too heavy, it actually feels pretty balanced looking back. But the timing just felt right, so this was our romance poll. I don't know how better to preface this than to say, you guys picked the weird one. Mysterious Girlfriend X follows a high school boy named Akira Tsubaki. He's a pretty ordinary boy, likable enough. His ordinariness is really emphasized when a strange girl named Mikoto Urabe transfers into his class. At first, she just seems quiet, a little withdrawn. As the days pass and she sleeps through all their lunch breaks, rebuffs everyone's attempts at making friends with her, and is struck by such a passionate fit of laughter from one of her own daydreams one day that she falls out of her desk mid-lesson, it's not long before her new classmates are perfectly happy to keep their distance. She quickly becomes the girl everyone whispers about, but no one talks to. But Tsubaki is drawn to her for reasons even he doesn't truly understand. One afternoon, he comes across her sleeping after school's been dismissed for the day. He wakes her up, and she leaves, and then, for some reason, Tsubaki feels compelled to taste the drool she left behind on the desk. That night, he has the first of what will become a string of bizarre, vivid dreams featuring Urabe. His memories of the dream don't fade as the days pass, but other than that, life goes on as usual, until he comes down with a fever and passes out in the middle of class one day. The days pass and he doesn't get better, until Urabe comes to visit him at home, under the guise of bringing over schoolwork. But once they're alone together, she tells him she knows why he's really sick, that it's not a cold he's suffering from, but a sort of love sickness. She knows what he did that day after school. She tells him his body's become addicted to the taste of her drool and he's going through withdrawal. Sure enough, she gives him another dose of it and his fever miraculously melts away. They start up a new routine, walking home from school together each day so he can get his daily fix. Urabe admits she's been dreaming of him as well, and Tsubaki formally asks her to be his girlfriend, though it's still a far cry from looking like a traditional relationship. Surprising even myself, my early impressions of this show were actually pretty positive. Something along the lines of, man, these kids are freaks, but I really hope they get to be happy together. As a concept, this idea was pretty weird and kinda gross, but in practice, it was really sweet most of the time. They could have very easily run away with this idea and made everything super sexual, and this show does have those moments, but it usually wasn't like that. At its core, Mysterious Girlfriend X is something very sweet and innocent, colored by someone's very specific fetish maybe, but it's a tale of two kids fumbling their way through their first real relationship. Underneath all the spit swapping, there's something kinda universal there. I can't deny that this show had its merits, but it also wasn't exactly what I wanted it to be. Let's get the wilder thoughts out of the way first. I was truly, genuinely expecting some kind of supernatural twist at some point. At first, it was just the way they kept zooming in on Urabe's little UFO trinkets. She's strange enough that a reveal that she was actually an alien or something would not have felt out of place. But there are also things that are just begging for a better explanation. It's not just strange dreams and things that could be explained away as being all in their heads. Urabe gets injured in gym class one episode, and after the drool exchange that evening, the very same injury appears on Tsubaki's leg. That's not something that can be explained away by, it's just proof of how strong our bond is, but that's what they go with. For the most part, their relationship is sweet, but there is an isolating sort of codependence to it that I don't love. Following that gym class episode, the series starts to explore that Urabe is actually really athletic. She gets nominated to compete in some of the events for their class in the sports festival, and it greatly improves her standing with her classmates. I know that sounds like a really superficial kind of popularity, but the point is, it made her approachable. She started feeling like she was really part of the class, and not just the weird pet they keep around but are afraid will bite them if they get too close. As much as Urabe seems so reserved and in control at first, somewhere inside, she's a pretty ordinary girl too. There are developments in their relationship that leave her just as flustered as Tsubaki. I loved those moments. There's no reason she couldn't have friends, and I was really hoping to see the story move in that direction. But ultimately, Urabe turns down the offer to join the track team, and the opportunity passes. But she turns it down specifically so as not to inconvenience Tsubaki, and that kinda left a sour taste in my mouth. It's not like he's shown to have any after-school responsibilities, or even hobbies. It wouldn't kill him to stay late a few times a week. The show plays with jealousy on both their parts a few times, closer to the end of the series. There was a particularly rough patch where they go full school days on us, and Tsubaki's middle school crush reappears in his life, getting him to agree to pretend to be her boyfriend by pretending her ex is abusing her. To be fair, they never go too far with it. Urabe is refreshingly confident in their bond. There are never any temporary breakups just for the sake of drama. In that particular storyline, they even made me feel for the girl a bit. She has a pretty heart-wrenching monologue about how every crush she's ever had was one-sided. Even her last boyfriend dumped her because he was still hung up on his ex. She was just a hurt kid looking for validation in the wrong places. I couldn't be too hard on her. My issue is just that I have very little patience for possessiveness or jealousy storylines in general, especially when they're still so insistent on keeping their relationship a secret. Which I guess brings us to what really disappointed me about this series. They make some progress, but there's not nearly the kind of character growth I was hoping for. Mysterious Girlfriend X is one of those shows that feels like it doesn't really arrive anywhere. I wanted to see them reach more of an understanding, to come to a point where Urabe wasn't quite so mysterious to him anymore. I'm at peace with her not secretly being an alien or anything, but I'm disappointed that we didn't get something more conclusive for an ending. They don't even really properly address his drool addiction, which I thought was kind of the bare minimum. I mean, what happens when they graduate and their schedules don't line up perfectly anymore? That sort of connection is absolutely the sort of thing that might seem romantic in the early days, but is likely to feel like a shackle if it goes on too long. To know that he couldn't leave her, even if he wanted to. I really expected that to be addressed by the end, and it wasn't. The last episode was actually really good. The two go pay their respects at Tsubaki's mother's grave, and basically confirm that they're excited for and committed to a future with each other. But I would have much preferred some kind of storyline that kept them apart for a while. A reveal that Tsubaki's physical dependence on her is gone, but that of course he wants to stay with her anyway. Mysterious Girlfriend X was okay. Didn't love it, didn't hate it. Probably wouldn't be the first thing to come to mind if someone asked me to recommend a love story, but it stood out in other ways. I really liked the style this animation had. Everything had an interesting texture to it, and they were spot on with the music choices. The dream sequences in particular were usually accompanied by this circusy type track, the kind of sound where you can't decide if it's meant to be eerie or playful. I was struck by the thought, a few episodes in, that if Another had been a romance, it probably would have looked and felt a lot like this. I don't know what to say except this show is an acquired taste. Definitely not something I'd recommend to a new anime fan who hasn't yet grown accustomed to how things do get a little weird around here sometimes. But if you've ever watched anything that was really heavy on the fan service, Mysterious Girlfriend X will probably seem downright tame. Check it out if you're interested, but know that it won't be for everybody. Thank you for watching.